let's get started.
All right, so like Summer said, I am Maria Lopez and I am the communications manager for Local First Arizona. So I manage all of our public facing TV appearances, manage what we talk about and why. And I kind of crafted a mini 5-step plan that every small business should consider when dealing with a crisis, no matter how big or how small, but just that you are thinking about this, you have a plan if you ever so need it, and happy to get this conversation going. If you want, I kind of would like to know what business you represent or what industry, and then we can dig into questions as we start. So to start, I think every plan should start and focus on these 3 questions. Who are we? What do we stand for? And what do we respond to? And I know in the age of COVID and everything going on in the world, you would think, well, does this change? I don't think it has to change that much. It should still go back to these 3 questions. And I'm going to go over 5 things that you should consider. And I'm going to start with number 1. The first thing I would recommend as a small business owner is to identify a spokesperson. Often this can be yourself, the owner. This could be a co-owner, a partner, a really enthusiastic employee who's been there over 10 years, who understands your mission, understands your values, and can be that person. So they should be concise. They should be able to think on their feet, and they should be, more than anything, available. The worst part could be a crisis just implodes and you have no one to tackle it at that time. So you could be running errands, dropping off deliveries, but you don't have someone to respond to someone who has a very time-sensitive need, or be able to be there to de-escalate this situation from getting any further. Right to the right, we have Chef Gabe, who's actually works at Local First Arizona. He is not the spokesperson for the organization, but he is our guy who runs our community kitchen. So when we are running media appearances that focus on this, he's the guy who would be on TV, not me, because I am not a chef and I don't know how to speak to those specifics. But with a good 3-minute phone call training, this is what we're talking about. This is what we like to focus on. I think it can go a far way and also relieve some of those duties off of your back if you actually don't want to be the person doing them. So that is number 1, identifying a spokesperson. If you have any questions around that matter, feel free to drop them in or unmute yourself, and I'm more than happy to answer. Okay, no takers. So I am going to move on to step number 2. Make sure someone is listening. This could be from social media to at the counter to your inbox. What are people saying? What should you be responding to? A big part of my job is either daily or weekly, do a simple Google search of our name, see what our competitors are talking about, see what we're talking about, see how we're being talked about. And then fielding comments on social media. What are people saying? Do they deserve a response? Can you give a constructive response, or are they just tackling you because they can? That's also a top question to be in mind. And this same person who is fielding these things should be able to escalate matters to leadership. When should an owner be involved? When should there be a direct response to said person who has either a bad order, just unhappy with the experience, or has something more personal to say? To the right, I gave a really good example of, this was July 11th, so right in the thick of COVID. We are an organization that, first of all, is here to support local businesses all across Arizona. Earlier on, we said, we are not here to tell you if you should open or not. We are here to make sure you do it in the safest way possible. And that's what we're doing. So July 11th, we posted a post. This was encouraging folks to go out to rural towns if they're going out of town or going outside. We had a commenter say, we're a global hotspot for a pandemic. These photos are concerning, and this seems out of touch. I know we're all tired of this, but it's way worse here than it was a couple months ago. First of all, what do? I think you wanna write out what you wanna say, reread it, maybe have someone else reread it, and then see, are we being defensive? Are we considering the concerns they brought forward? And what are we saying? Are we sticking to our values? So I think this scenario could have gone a long way. I think we could have been, hey, Rachel, sorry, we don't have photos of people wearing masks, but we do truly support you wearing masks, or something like that. We could have gotten defensive. We could have made a sarcastic joke. We could have said, no people died in the making of this photo or this post, but we didn't go the route. This is how Local First chose to respond. We said, hey, Rachel, we share the same concern. There are rural communities that depend on summer tourism economically. So we suggested going outside and doing activities that can drive dollars to these towns and that are safe. A couple of these communities have asked for support. A hike, horseback riding, getting takeout, you can do it safely, and we encourage that. Thank you for pointing out your concerns. We absolutely agree. We also noted that each of these towns has a mask mandate. We will definitely use more careful language going forward. We have a long road ahead of us, but there are still creative and socially distanced ways to support these small businesses. I think writing out a response isn't always the easiest. It could be a day where you're running on emotions. It could be a person who's having a really rough day. I think what you have to consider is that in this time when everyone is dealing with so much, often if their first interaction with your business or with your site is these people aren't taking it seriously, when maybe they just heard a loved one has been affected or dealing with their own struggles, you don't have to consider every possible scenario, but I think you need to stick to mentioning the values of yours as a business and how you want to be perceived. I am a business who delivers fast service, but I also care about how it's done. I care about inclusion, diversity. I care about supporting Arizona. So in this response, we stuck to what we do, which is support small businesses. We want to do it safely. And actually, tourism is one of the hardest hit industries right now. And so we are going to advocate for our rural communities. And that's the path that we chose to take. If you have any questions on that, I'm more than happy to answer. Okay, I'm going to move over to slide 3, de-escalation. So let's say you have a commenter who said XXX about your business. It could be personable. It could be a surface level comment. Did you respond? Did a direct response work? Has it elevated? Has that comment spread like wildfire because your response actually did not work? Has this person reached out to media? And now reporters asking you, are you ready to take those questions? I think this all goes back to the 1 and 2 steps. Have you had this conversation with your spokesperson? Have you had this conversation with leadership? We don't need to answer every single thing that was pointed, but we want to make sure that we answer the question in the best way we can, the comment in the best way they can, and that, again, it always ties back to our values and how we should respond. How should we respond as the organization that we are? So a good example of this is earlier on with everything going on, I'm sure you all saw people making Black Lives Matter posts or choosing to get politically involved. There was a scenario with a local magazine whose co-owner actually said some unpleasant things on social media, and the company put out a response. They put out, "We are sorry." Earlier this week, a post was made by a member of our family that was offensive and wrong. While the post was removed, we know that pain remains and will still for some. We want to make this right, and we ask you for the chance to do so. We also ask you to help us as we work to be better. This response rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. They thought it wasn't well thought out. They didn't address, number one was, is your family member racist? Can you tell us what your organization does to support diversity? And they didn't. And what escalated was a massive attack on this magazine, to the point where many local businesses dropped their ads, they stopped supporting, and they told others to stop supporting. This magazine, instead of addressing the points, their reaction was, okay, we are going to hire a person of color and bring some diversity to our business, which on the surface to anyone could be a really good idea, but the way it was executed was not the greatest. And I don't think they asked for others' opinions. They didn't have a second look to see how does this look publicly. They are still struggling. They have not been able to recover. So first thing you want to do is be able to kind of tighten whatever it is you want to say and make sure it can be fixed on a one-on-one response if possible. And if not, then we look at next steps. Look at your sales. Did the way you respond affect your sales? Are your loyal customers even giving you a ring and letting you know, hey, I didn't appreciate how you responded to that? Or did it pass that day? No one has mentioned it. Maybe there was an article where, hey, this business responded to this matter in a certain way. I'm going to tell you, there is this media bubble, and when a person is being attacked, they actually think it's the end of the world, but in reality, it's going to pass in 1 or 2 days. It just matters how you choose to respond to it and continue to either address the problem or move on. And I think the biggest thing I can tell businesses is find a way to control the narrative. In the age of COVID, we saw a lot of businesses early on choosing to either disclose whether there had been exposure of COVID in their business or not at all, or just simply close it down. I think as small business owners, you know your audience, you know your community, you know your personal values are most often instilled in your business, and that also drives how you want to respond. So in the case of a local coffee shop here, actually one of our members, there was an employee who was exposed to COVID. We don't know if it happened because of outside matters or because of something that happened in the said business, but they closed down, they were public about it, and they let their customers know. Feedback was completely positive. If anything, the response was, thank you for considering your community, people who shopped there that day, and them taking the proactive steps to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. In the media, you could have seen the Churchill and Joe Bot are closing because of spike in COVID cases, but they took it on their own to post about it. And this is actually not the owner, but this is the head cook. And he said, so the reason why we closed at Joe Bot is because it's not smart. Today we had multiple people people trying to buy coffee, wearing a mask. That's why we closed. And again, it's simple. It's straight to the point. You're saying something instead of not saying anything at all. And I think you can rest assured that you did the right thing by saying something than nothing at all, especially now when people are really looking to support businesses who are value driven and want to do the absolutely best they can for their community and the people they serve. So I think that Joe Bot handled it really well. And I wouldn't say, I would also caution that you don't want to go absolutely everywhere and go berserk and make sure your message is going out. Start with where your customers are, whether it be on social media. Is it a news blast? Is it a personal call to a few? Start there before worrying and trying to start fires that may not even be in the sphere of this. So finally, I will say, continue to share. If you did close, you don't have to keep talking about closing and what that means. If you're not, do you have anything else to talk about? I mean, I'm not open, I'm not selling. Talk about another local business on your street that you love. Your values are profitable, and your commitment to your community surpasses everything. It'll surpass Amazon same day delivery. Just the fact that you care of how your community responds and happens to survive this, it'll mean the world to someone who has supported you for 5 years or someone who just heard of you today. And then stick to the basics. You don't have to address every single thing that could be at the top of mind. You could just say, we're open, wear a mask if possible. That's what local officials are telling us to do. And this is what we're choosing to do. So that would be it. It starts from the top and to the bottom. I think you need to have a clear message, identify who are those people relaying that message within your business. And that's about it. I think within that, you can choose to say a social media response will do. Actually, I think this is a bigger problem than I ever thought, and we need to do a press release. There are things to consider when doing that. I would always advise, if you do get reporter questions, stick to answering that reporter, and let's end it there. But if it is a bigger problem, then maybe spread your message worldwide. We're actually doing everything we can to prevent this ever happening again, or we've learned from this and here's how we move on. And we have great resources. Actually, HubSpot will have a 6 crisis communication plan examples and a template that you can download to start one and incorporate it in your business. It could be easy as, here's our spokesperson, here's our backup person if you can't get a hold of them. Let's say someone calls a shop and it's a reporter that wants to talk to your business. And just making sure you've identified those points. Any other questions that I can help answer? I think you can unmute yourself if Summer can't, but.
Yes, if anyone has any questions, you should just be able to unmute yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Maria, I have a question.
Yes.
So I have been talking to multiple businesses that are kind of trying to that identify a spokesperson. Like, how much time should it be for those people? And like, if they don't have a spokesperson and they don't feel confident in like their ability to be a spokesperson, should that be a place where you bring on staff? At what point do you like approach a marketing company that wants to help you with it? Like, I feel like I get a lot of questions about that. Number one.
Yeah, I think it really depends if you're a business that can afford an outside agency. But in the end, you want someone within your business. You want someone who actually, the result will break or make them. I think that's where you'll get the most passionate response and the most people being alert and on top of these things, because agencies, they manage 6 different businesses. Some go far and beyond to really deliver. Some just want to get it out of the way and fix it and move on. But I think if you can dedicate maybe 2 to 3 hours to start, just making sure you're looking over comments, making sure you're having conversations with your employees, what are you hearing? I think that makes all the difference. You're not going to have fires weekly, even monthly, but just having those conversations. If you hear actually someone came in and they were just super proud that you are still composting during this pandemic. Well, hey, if someone's really proud of that, then maybe we should continue sharing. We are a green business and we will continue to stay committed through this, to the pandemic. I don't think you have to feed into what's happening in the world. I think you can try to take an opportunity to jump off what your mission and values are and what you want to be known for, even if the world is asking you something different. So I would say stick to someone in your business who can dedicate maybe 2 hours, even 1 hour of just scrolling through feeds, looking at emails, and just getting a report from someone who's doing that. And if you want just reassurance, I would say maybe reach out to an agency, see if a single person is willing to be a mentor. There are a lot of local agencies who will do that for small businesses and let you know that you're on the right path, I think.
Right on. And that 2 to 3 hours you're talking about, is that spaced out throughout the week, like maybe a Monday, Wednesday, Friday?
Yeah.
Or you suggest like being like kind of checking in each day?
Mm-hmm. So if it's, I mean, everyone that runs their weekly reports, I'm assuming sales, why are things off this week? Well, what did we post about? Did we say something that rubbed people the wrong way? I think those departments should always be communicating. Yeah.
I also have a question, Maria. Say you're starting off with trying to identify a person, and this person is supposed to kind of create like a personality for your brand or for your company. How
Mhm.
important is it for it to come from one person so that the voice doesn't get kind of mingled, um, and it sticks on par with the personality you're trying to portray
Mhm.
to the public?
I would say I wouldn't overthink it, but again, I always think the business owner is always the best person to be that, because at the end of the day, you call the shots. But again, that business owner might not be everyone's cup of tea. Like maybe someone thinks my voice is annoying. Maybe someone thinks, I don't know, my jokes aren't funny. I think it's worth to play around, but I think if you have that mission and that value set up from the front, like we are a business that just sells yarn and we're really good at it and we are experts and we will help you get perfect yarn for whatever you need. I think anyone can replicate that. And if it's obviously someone who's more comfortable on the camera than you are, then I would just have that conversation. Say, this is how I talk about my business. What do you think? And are you comfortable doing it on my behalf? I think I would always recommend the owner, but if you find someone who has more time and is just kind of a natural at it, I would try to take advantage and work together to take on those duties.
Awesome. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
All right. Anything else? We're a small group, so even if it's not specifically anything that I covered, I'm more than happy to answer anything else media-wise.
I have one more. How important is it to identify someone not only as the spokesperson or the personality via social media and other outlets, but also to have someone to overlook the work of that person, whether it's editing a blog or a social media post before it's being posted?
Mm-hmm.
And can you say anything about that?
Are you saying in a sense of how much time you should take to review that, or?
Yeah, and just like kind of the importance of having someone also identified who can edit or be your second pair of eyes if you are, a smaller business that maybe
Yeah.
doesn't have as many hands available.
Yeah, I think it starts off with having that conversation and then working different maybe scenarios to see how they respond and act. Actually, one of my first jobs was at a sandwich shop called Shorty Sandwich Shop, and I was the front cashier girl, but I would talk to the customers that would come in daily, and then I also happened to do social media and media. So I told my boss, hey, do you mind if I do stories for you and talk about the business? He's like, yeah. So we started with like stories, posts, having 2 posts a week, see how he liked the way I did it. And he ended up making it part of my job. And then to the point where people would come in and say, oh, are you Shorty? Like, are you the owner? Because I'm like 5 foot tall. And I'm like, no, I'm not. But I do help my boss talk about our business. So I think letting people who are creative kind of roll with it, but also making sure that your values and message is still being echoed through. And then when they're not, maybe pull back a little bit or be a little constructive. But I think when you can offset that to someone else, it just makes the product a lot fresher and newer. And you can switch. You can say, hey, can you do social this week? And I focus on a blog, and maybe we switch roles next week. And just what ideas do you have? Someone to bounce off ideas with, I think, is it's one of the coolest things. If I didn't have someone to review my work or tell me, I don't think that's funny, I don't know what I would do. And I'm glad I have a team. But that could be an employee, that could be your co-owner, it could be your mom, it could be like, I didn't like the way you wrote this, I think this and this and that. So I think, yeah, you definitely don't want to micromanage, but at the end of the day, you want to make sure your voice and your values are shining through. So just figure out what it is that you want to prioritize in getting out, and let's make sure it's being done well.
Awesome. Yeah, I just get a lot of businesses that will ask, I can't do social media. I don't know how to do this, but with your example of being at Shorty's where like that necessarily wasn't your role, however, you kind of, it evolved. And so to identify just an employee who's interested or, maybe more skilled in
Yeah.
that realm, that helps a lot.
And I think even if it's a quick, let's say you do make a statement, it's as easy as literally typing it on your cell phone and taking a screenshot. You don't have to go make a fancy graphic. Nowadays, we don't know how things will go viral or who will respond to what. It's just a matter of making sure you did it in a timely manner, and you addressed everything you had to in a thoughtful way.
Maria, my name is Christine Sterling and I'm with ImageCraft, and our office is actually right down the road from Shorty's.
Oh, really?
Broadway, yeah. I eat at Shorty's all the time.
Really? That's awesome.
I do. I mean, not since the pandemic because I'm working from home, but yeah, so that's small world. So quick question. So I'm the sales manager there, and I've kind of been tasked since, I guess, July doing social media. And what ImageCraft is we're a large format printer. So we do a lot of different things. We do, window graphics and floor graphics and big building murals. We do all the printings for the Sons and the Diamondbacks. So we do an array of things.
Yeah.
We do wallpaper, we do art. So usually when I'm doing the social media posts, we showcase what we do to try to let everybody know what we do. But sometimes it comes across like selling, and then someone's like, "Oh, you can't do that because it's you don't want to be selling. You just want to showcase." So and then there's also that difference of a different audience on LinkedIn versus Instagram. So it's really kind of very confusing for me. But being that the business that we're in, it's like it's hard not to sound like we're selling.
Right.
You know what I mean? So how do you find that happy medium, or when you're showcasing, maybe this huge wall mural that we just did for a company, like, how do you do that without make it sound like you're selling?
I do this a lot, and I train businesses to do this when we're doing TV spots, because when I present them with the opportunity, they're like, oh, I need to tell them that you can buy 4 cans for $25. And I'm like, yes. But what are we going to say to make people buy it? And I think it's doing a mix. It's saying, let's say when the mural is being done, how many people did it take to complete that mural? Who were the people working on it? How long did it take? You can be like, hey guys, meet Robert, Ed, Cheryl, and Tim. 4 people who have spent 4 months making this incredible mural in our community. And if you're interested in something like this for your business, it only takes blah, 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 and here are the steps. I think it's doing the storytelling that you can to sell your product, because at the end of the day, if someone knows like there's someone really taking into consideration of what I want, how I want it, and they're personable and they're going to make this easy, I think I'd rather go with them than someone who's going to automate me a response in the chat box and send me a receipt within 30 seconds. I'd rather go with someone who's going to take the time and are really experts in this area. And I think this is where small businesses can excel. I was actually at a costume store today, and anything party rentals, they are suffering. And what they said was, I will email a photo to my clients of anything they want to purchase. I cannot get that from Spirit Halloween or Amazon, but that personable touch, I think, is a really key selling point as a business.
Absolutely, I agree. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and you always can sneak in those deals in whatever you post.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. Anything else? Okay, well, I really enjoyed our time. And Christine, I hope next time you drop in, you tell, I forgot his name. I think it's like with a Z, Zollinger. I forgot his last name. But you tell him that I mentioned him in a webinar that you tuned in.
Okay.
But yeah, anything else? My email and my contact information is on Local First site, and anything that you want to reach out to me and talk to me privately or any way I can steer you, I'm more than happy to answer these questions. Yeah, I think media sounds super scary, but it really isn't. And you can make it very difficult for yourself. But if you focus on what you're good at and honing in on your message, it'll actually become fun doing it, and you'll actually get more inspired to do more and in different ways. So I'm more than happy to have a one-on-one and talk those through.